Welcome aboard! We will be your guides during this magical journey into the movies. It's the perfect job for us because we love the movies. It's showtime! Ready when you are, CB!
Action!
Welcome to Monoreel Radio, episode number 355. I'm Sean.
And I'm Jackie.
And we are here this week to review and discuss 1990's Dick Tracy. This film recently celebrated its 35th anniversary. It actually celebrated it back in June, but we just had a lot of anniversaries to catch up on.
But, what were we doing, seriously, that this is the one that got bumped? Because you love this movie.
You know, it's funny that I talk so often on this show about Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, and Batman.
I hadn't heard.
But what a lot of people don't realize is that for a window in time, I'd say that for like a 2 or 3 year window when I was a kid, this movie was in heavy rotation with the rest of them. If I'm being honest with you, and you're getting a little peek behind the curtain, folks, as to why I think the decision was made to push this one off for a little while. You all, and we love you all so much, you really love us discussing specifically Disney films.
Correct.
When we go into Hollywood Pictures, when we go into Touchstone, people don't always love it as much. And I think because looking back at the release schedule for June, we went Dogma, we went Fantasia 2000, then we did Gone in 60 Seconds. It would have been Hollywood, Touchstone, Hollywood, or it would have been those three, and I think I just wanted another Disney film in there. And I was so unfortunate that that Disney film was Fantasia 2000. But you know what? I think that just goes to show that when you have a company like Disney, and we know that early summer is such a big release time, that most studios really do stack that early summer leading into 4th of July. The kids have just gotten out of school. Like, they just stack their slate with movies they think are going to be big hits.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought up the different divisions of Disney's film distribution, meaning Hollywood Pictures and Touchstone. This is a Touchstone, but originally they did want to make it a tried and true Disney film. But because the source material is so dark, obviously this is based off of a comic strip which originated in Chicago, I believe. They knew that they weren't going to be able to go full throttle with it if it was under the Disney banner entirely. So this is where, it really demonstrated the genius of Michael Eisner and Jeffrey Katzenberg, where they had this other division and they could do these darker films.
Well, speaking of Jeffrey Katzenberg, in the year or so that followed, he had actually said that he was very disappointed with how this film performed, in spite of the fact that it made over $200 million at the box office in 1990. In true Disney fashion, they spent close to $100 million in marketing in 1990. So this movie ended up, I think there was a $50 million deficit at the end of its run.
I've also heard somewhere that there is a 2-hour and 15-minute version of it, but in tried and true Katzenberg fashion, he cut a half hour out. I would hardly call this, all right, maybe it wasn't a commercially successful box office hit, just in the sense of not recouping the money. I still think was a hit, but the accolades that this film received, 37 nominations across the Oscars, the Golden Globes, the BAFTAs, and they won 9 of them. But yeah, we're obviously going to talk about why that was the case, because this set design, I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, well, was Katzenberg wrong? Has history proven him wrong? And is there still an audience for Dick Tracy? That, on top of many other things, is what we are here to discuss today.
This episode is sponsored by Fierce Fox Co., designers of handmade silkscreen shirts. Fierce Fox has a t-shirt, tank top, hoodie, or crew neck for every fandom. So whether it's the movies or theme parks, princesses or villains, the MCU or Star Wars, everyone will find something they love. The designs range from subtle quotes from our favorite films to iconic characters we can wear proudly in so many different styles, such as sketchbook and concert tees. Listeners of Monoreel Radio Radio can get a 20% discount using the code Monoreel at checkout. Visit fiercefoxco.com to check out all of the collections.
Dick Tracy is a detective set on cleaning up the streets and ending the reign of terror that Big Boy Caprice and his men have unleashed, especially on small businesses. Tracy's girlfriend, Tess Trueheart, is constantly put on the back burner and wants the work-obsessed Tracy to consider a desk job, which he refuses to do. Across town, breathless Mahoney sings at the Club Ritz, owned by Lips Manless, until Big Boy has Lips killed and takes the club and the territory for himself. Meanwhile, Tracy meets a young orphan boy named the Kid, who prefers a life on the streets as opposed to the orphanage. Tracy starts interrogating Big Boy's men about Lip's disappearance, while Big Boy forces Breathless and her piano player 88 Keys to rehearse at the Club Ritz under his abusive direction. Tracy has Big Boy arrested for Lip's murder despite having virtually no evidence. He goes home where Tess has been watching the Kid and learns later that day that D.A. Fletcher has considered Big Boy's arrest as a false arrest due to not having evidence, and he will not prosecute him. Tracy and Tess take the Kid shopping for new clothes and spoil him with nice meals. After such a nice day, Tracy and Tess begin to consider their future together, but he is too afraid to commit. Just then, Big Boy's men attempt a drive-by shooting, so he goes to pursue them while Tess stays home, upset because she is again backburnered. Tracy starts to follow Breathless and case the Club Ritz when she refuses to testify against Big Boy. He observes a large meeting of all of the mob bosses in town and calls for backup. In the meeting, Big Boy suggests bringing all of the gangs together to make money off the backs of small businesses. He believes that as one big company in which they all serve on the board of governors, they can be bigger than the police and that they can be unstoppable. He kills off the first boss, who wants nothing to do with this plan, to send a message to the others. The next day, Iggy and Flat Top, two of Big Boy's men, kidnap Tracy, but the Kid escapes. They don't even really want him. They don't care about him. They bring Tracy to the basement of Tess's apartment, where Big Boy offers to put Tracy on the payroll to keep him off of his back. When Tracy refuses the bribe, the crooks turn up the pressure on the boiler in the basement and tie Tracy to a chair. They escape before it explodes, staging the whole thing as an accident. However, the Kid arrives and saves Tracy before the building blows up. The Kid is given an honorary detective certificate for his bravery. However, it is temporary until he chooses a proper name. That night, it is exposed that D.A. Fletcher is on Big Boy's payroll and will continue to protect Big Boy in order to protect himself. Breathless arrives at Tracy's apartment to seduce him, and as she kisses him, Tess walks in and Tracy explains that he is just trying to get her to testify against Big Boy. Meanwhile, 88 Keys receives a call from a mysterious criminal without a face named The Blank. The Blank pays 88 Keys $5,000 to deliver a note to Big Boy asking for 10% of his business in exchange for eliminating Tracy, but Big Boy refuses to accept the offer. That night, Tracy and his men infiltrate the Club Ritz with a search warrant, and while they can't find any illegal gambling, since Big Boy covered it all up, which was why they were there, they did manage to bug the place while Big Boy and his men were distracted. Slowly, Tracy starts to take down the mob, infuriating Big Boy because Big Boy can't understand how Tracy is a step ahead. However, upon discovering the bug in the Club Ritz, Big Boy and his men set up a fake deal to trap Tracy. Meanwhile, as Tracy receives a message about the deal, Tess tells him that she is leaving, but Tracy hardly flinches and leaves to intercept the phony deal at the Southside warehouse. Tracy is nearly killed, but is saved by the Blank. Big Boy finally snaps and orders his men to kill Tracy. He doesn't care if there's blood on his hands, and eventually he strikes a deal with 88 Keys to have his mystery partner kill Tracy so that his hands are clean of it. Tracy struggles with Tess gone and failing to find people to testify against Big Boy. Breathless offers to testify in exchange for Tracy admitting that he wants her, but he refuses to do it as he admits that he loves Tess and does not want to hurt her any further. The Blank steals a check signed by Tracy and has 88 Keys pay someone to forge a letter in Tracy's handwriting. He sends a fake letter at that point to D.A. Fletcher to extort him. Meanwhile, the blank kidnaps Tess and sends a fake letter to Tracy from Tess asking to meet at the greenhouse where she works. Meanwhile, the welfare department arrives and takes the kid to the orphanage. At the greenhouse, the blank puts Tracy to sleep with gas. While unconscious, someone in Tracy's signature yellow trench coat and fedora kills D.A. Fletcher. They take Tracy's unconscious body to the site and stage the murder, putting the weapon in Tracy's hand. He is then arrested for the murder, and while in jail, Big Boy and his associates become rich and terrorize the town. Chief Brandon takes the kid to visit Tracy in jail, and there the kid tells Tracy that he has picked a proper name of Dick Tracy Jr. Chief helps break Tracy out of jail, and they pursue Mumbles, an associate of Big Boy, who admits that Big Boy set Tracy up with 88 Keys' help. Meanwhile, the blank calls Chief Brandon and tells him to go to the Club Ritz to take Big Boy down, while also tipping Big Boy off to check the basement of the club. It is at that point that Big Boy goes down and sees that Tess is down there, and that she has been planted by the blank because he, in fact, did not kidnap her. At this point, Tracy and the police arrive, and there is a massive shootout where all of Big Boy's men are killed. However, he escapes with Tess through some mystery tunnels. Eventually, he gets to a drawbridge where he goes inside and he ties Tess to the gears. Tracy has been following him, as has the blank. So inside the drawbridge, there is a struggle, and Big Boy shoots the blank after the blank says that the blank should partner with Dick Tracy to kill Big Boy and become unstoppable. So after the blank is shot, Big Boy then struggles with Dick Tracy. Big Boy falls to his death through the gears. He is then able, Dick Tracy is able to save Tess, and when they pull the mask off of the blank, they see that it was, in fact, Breathless Mahoney the entire time. Breathless dies, and then back at the diner, Dick Tracy gives the kid his signature walkie-talkie watch, and he gives Tess her engagement ring.
I have to give you props because that sounds like a very convoluted plot on paper, but this movie, because it is so visual, it's very straightforward when you watch it.
Yeah, it doesn't read on screen as difficult as it reads when you're pulling it off of a sheet. Like, you're right, it sounds convoluted. It sounds like there would be a lot of see and say, but there's not. Like, the movie is so much easier to follow as you watch it than it is to, like, read it as a treatment.
Especially because it is such a blend of genres, with it being a cop movie. It's pulling certain elements from film noir. It's a romance. It's got musical elements to it. Like, that's where there's so much going on. But because the visuals are so strong, it's much easier to follow as a watch. We're going to get into those visuals in a second because I'm going to talk about them ad nauseum. Off the rip, though, we've got cast in order of appearance. You know, when you see that, it is going to be absolutely stacked, because normally with films, when they do the opening credits, it's a billing. The biggest names come first. That's what Hollywood agents do, is they get their cast ranked, and you always want the highest ranking. But here, because there were so many established actors, there's just no way of doing that. So order of appearance, or alphabetical order they'll do sometimes, is just the most fair way to go about it. And we're going to get into the cast later. We're just going to list them all off because it's so stacked. But as we're going through, we'll talk about the main cast, our five-ish main characters.
Yeah.
As they appear on screen. So because they are introducing so many names, it's actually really smart, because they're also starting to pull us into this beautiful world that they've created. So you get these stunning visuals right away. I mentioned earlier that there are elements of film noir, but one of the biggest characteristics of film noir is that it's black and white. So here, they sort of play off of that in that they only use 4 colors. They use red, green, yellow, and blue. So basically your primaries plus green. And it shouldn't work, but it does so well. It's vibrant, but because they're lighting it in such a way that plays with light and shadow like a noir, it's not it's just highly stylized without being over the top and flashy. It's just so brilliantly done. And then one of the things that I was really proud of myself for picking out was that most of the backgrounds are matte paintings, and I was able to recognize the Ellen Shaw style, and I was so happy to see it because this is exactly how they did Mary Poppins. When they have her fly over London, it was a big matte painting, and they poked holes in it to let the light through. So to see that still employed by Disney years later, 30 years later, in a film that Dick Van Dyke is in, no less. It was just such a wonderful full circle moment. And between that and using these old school techniques, plus doing it with practical makeup, this is just catnip for me visually.
Yeah, and when you think about movies like Into the Spider-Verse or Sin City, the movies that are stylized to look like the pictures of a comic book have come to life and leapt off of the page and onto the screen, this was the first to do it. And if I'm being honest, as great as those other films are and as beautiful as they are, this one to me still does it the best.
So interesting you say that, because to me, the first one was actually Batman when we're talking about comic book adaptations. And I think Batman sort of walked in the 80s so that this could run. And to your point, yes, there is no Sin City without something like this. But that's why what I love so much about these comic book movies, the adaptations, particularly the ones of the 80s and 90s, is that because they're so hyper stylized, you can do things like give them that classic Hollywood feel and make it contemporary, or contemporary for the time in the 90s. And it all just blends together so seamlessly. And really, I mean, if we're talking about what walked so that comic book movies could run, I mean, Marvel really owes this one a debt of gratitude, because circling back to the cast for a second, you know, we've talked about it quite extensively on Monoreel Radio that had Favreau not gotten Robert Downey to do Iron Man, there is no Marvel. He was the linchpin. He was the first domino to fall. And it's like, okay, Robert Downey's doing this, we're going to take it seriously. So then you hook Gwyneth Paltrow, then you hook, you know, all of these big names. And that's kind of what happened here is you got Warren Beatty, because he was a fan of Dick Tracy, to want to do this movie. And originally he was going to direct, but they couldn't find anybody quite right for the part. So he ended up deciding to pull double duty and direct and star in it. And then I think then, you know, the picture starts coming together of like, oh, this, you know, incredibly talented actor is taking a comic book movie seriously. Maybe I want to do this project too. And I think between that and your Disney dollars behind it, it was a very attractive project for the time.
Right. Well, I mean, you think about just the level of caliber when it comes to award winners. You have Warren Beatty. You had Al Pacino. You have Dustin Hoffman. So, like, to your point, these very serious actors, when you think about things like Bonnie and Clyde, The Godfather, and The Graduate, you don't immediately think, oh yeah, comic book movie somewhere in their future. And, you know, the other thing, too, is Warren Beatty, I mean, he also wasn't even the first person they had in mind for direction. This movie went through a handful of directors before it even landed on Warren Beatty, because John Landis and Steven Spielberg at one point had each had their hands on this, but for a multitude of reasons, it just couldn't work out. So all of this to be said, like, it's this just amalgamation of like perfect timing, perfect casting. Like, everything just comes together at the right time. And for that, and for so many reasons, like, this movie, I think in the years that have followed, the movie has a cult following, right? But I think that in the years that have followed, people have not just started to recognize, to the point you made, they're not just recognizing how it's gone on to influence other films stylistically, but how it was something that became a magnet for, your Dick Van Dykes of the world, who had a comedic background and some serious roles too. But then you had the young, hot, up-and-coming stars like Madonna wanted to do it, and then you've got these veteran actors who are highly regarded, and they want to do it too. Like, you're right, it was like the original MCU, and it only lasted, unfortunately, for the one film.
What's amazing, too, was that all of these actors were down to sit in the makeup chairs for 4 or 5 hours a day. I mean, we see that now with Marvel, too, but this one, some of the Marvel costumes, you get away with not doing heavy makeup. Like, Karen Gilliam as Nebula, she's going to be sitting in that chair for a long time.
Yeah.
Everybody had to do it here. But getting into the movie now, I love that you don't even know some of these actors hiding behind the makeup. And I love how they hold it a beat before they reveal it. We're in this downtown area. It's going to be mob run. The kid sneaks in and you have this gambling scene set. And you kind of think that that's all it's going to be. And if you've never seen the movie, it is shocking. If you've never seen a trailer, if you know nothing about this movie, this reveal of the makeup to have them look comic strip accurate is just unbelievable. And I think it's one of the things that really distinctly sets this movie apart is not just how well done it is, but the fact that they even decided to do this and not just have a live action remake and have actors playing these parts, but that you really did make it look like the comic strip is just so genius. Like, cinematography, art direction, just 10 out of 10.
And the makeup looks great.
It's incredible.
Now they would do most of this as CGI. There would be the contact points on the face.
Oh, God.
And it would look terrible.
It would look like Helena Bonham Carter in, particularly, I'm thinking about like Flat Top. It would look like her as the Queen of Hearts.
Yeah.
And it would just be awful. So you get the reveal, and we are pulled into the action right away because you get the car bursting in through the wall, and then there's a shootout. I want to mention something very specific about this shootout. Granted, it is a machine gun, and they have a very specific sound. I think, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think we are pulling from the same sound library as Home Alone, because to me, it stands out like a sore thumb. I've seen Home Alone, I can't even tell you how many times. I'm pretty sure it's Angels with Filthy Souls, and it's from a sound effects library, because that's what a lot of these studios had. Instead of recording sound for every single film, they would just record, generic things that they might need, and then you pull it out of the library for the edit. So I'm pretty sure it is the same one. It just sounds slightly different because in Home Alone, there's also firecrackers going off over the machine gun.
Yeah, I mean, they're Tommy guns. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that we both have audio libraries with sound effects. I'm sure if we delved in, we would find Tommy gun.
Yes, but there is a specific cadence. I know that a Tommy gun has a specific sound, but there's like a couple of shots fired, a beat, and then it goes again.
Yeah.
I know what I'm saying.
I trust that you know what you're talking about. For as many times as I have seen Ghostbusters and Back to the Future, you have seen Home Alone, so we'll go with your thing. Something that they do here that I think carries for the entire film is the pace. Yeah. The level of pace from the second the movie starts and they start building this world out, it's unbelievable because they introduce us to this immense cast of characters very, very quickly, but it never feels rushed.
I agree. But what's also remarkable about it is that the world is so populated with so many people, And yet, like, yes, you have the main cast. Yes, you have all the goons and the villains, and then you have the police force, but they populate the entire movie. So it feels like a lot. It's like 20 people, but they don't do a lot of scenes with a lot of background extras. Like, to your point, the pacing, it's also great for the character development, because when we are introduced to Tracy, he's on a date with Tess and he gets pulled out of the theater. This shot of the theater is so brilliant. Instead of doing the atypical theater shot where the camera is, you know, positioned where the screen would be and you're looking up at the audience, and then you're using what would be the light of the movie screen reflecting back, or even if it's a stage play, reflecting back on the audience. Or we love to see it in Spielberg movies, or I should say Spielberg loves to see it in Spielberg movies. The shot of the projector, creating a halo around the cast. None of that. This is such a different, unique shot. There's about 6 people in this theater, but it feels full just because they position the camera and put everybody in silhouette. It is just so brilliantly done. And then Tracy leaves to go see what's going on, and he goes back to the date, which is also very telling. It's great development for their relationship. But it happens, to your point, very quickly.
Right. And now, in the meantime, we go over to the Club Ritz. We meet Breathless Mahoney. And from her introduction, the song she's singing, her body language, you know this is supposed to be the femme fatale, right? You meet Lips Manless. The cops come in. Turns out they're not really cops. They're in disguise. They're big boys men. Flap Top's waiting in the car. He's got his Tommy gun. Like, this all happens so quickly. But I know exactly who these characters are.
Yeah. Breathless in particular, it is such a great intro for her. And especially because of the song that she's singing. It does seem like it could be a one-off thing. And yes, they are establishing her as the femme fatale, but it's such a great misdirect for how big a role that she's going to actually play. But she's telling you right now, sooner or later, she's going to get her... This is her motive. She is telling us right now what it is. It's so well done. And to your point, too, we've got gangsters impersonating cops. They've got the hit out for Lips. They put him in not cement shoes. It's an entire cement body casing. Because this movie is so hyper stylized, you don't realize how dark the story is as we're kind of like really navigating our way into it now.
I remember being a kid watching this movie for the first time and being so disturbed by the concept of the bath. Like, just filling a shipping crate with cement until you are submerged in it, locking it shut, and dropping you in the water.
That's what I'm saying. Like, because this film is so visually stunning, it took the second, and I even did a third watch this time around. It wasn't until the third time through I was like, that's a really, like, my wheels started turning and I was like, that's a really horrible way to die. Like, this isn't just some mob hit. Like, this is real torture here, but you don't realize it at first just because it's like, oh my God, this movie's so beautiful to look at.
Well, and that's the thing, right? So this movie comes out in 1990. I'm 4 years old. My parents took me to see this at the, was it Comac or was it Westbury? We saw it at the drive-in. I think we saw this at the Westbury drive. Was it? I think this was Westbury we saw this. Irrelevant. Nobody cares about this but me. And I think, like, I was so disturbed watching it because I knew what was happening. I knew this man had died. But because the colors are so vibrant, it's like, oh, look at the red and yellow, kid.
I'm saying.
It's this sensory overload where it's like, oh, man, this is really scary, but it's so much fun to watch.
Exactly. Speaking of fun to watch, here's where we get our intro for Big Boy Caprice. And like I said, we're going to get into the cast later, but like, it is impossible to discuss this movie and discuss this character without talking about what is, in my opinion, Al Pacino's greatest performance ever. ever.
I would agree with it.
He's just incredible. I don't want to say he's over the top because yes, he is. The character is, but he pulls back the reins at just the right moment where like you can take him seriously. And then he quotes presidents and philosophers and uses that as his way to lead his gangster. Like it's the whole thing is just so freaking brilliant. And like he's clearly having the time of his life. I think now might be a good story time.
Yeah.
You have to.
So back in the commercial radio days, our friend Pat has been on the show multiple times.
He's our great movie right intro, Pat.
We hired Pat as an intern at the radio station. And we were out in the prize van doing an event. And at the time that Pat was an intern, Twilight was a thing. And we had an intern, this girl was in her early 20s. She was not the target demographic for Twilight. And she thought that Twilight was the greatest thing that had ever hit cinema. And to the point where, if I'm being honest, I think we just started to poke fun at her for not having seen any real film. And somehow, some way, in the conversation, Al Pacino came up between me and Pat. And I don't know if it's that she didn't know who Al Pacino was, and we decided to start talking like Al Pacino, thinking she'd be like, oh yeah, that guy, because we'd be like, The Godfather? No. Scarface? No. Dick Tracy? No. She didn't. So then it turned into us talking like Pacino the entire time.
In particular, in this movie, because it's so exaggerated. It was like, because you two came back, and it was like the SNL interpretation of Pacino, but it was hysterical.
Yeah, every conversation we had was, "Oh, you gotta be kidding me! You don't know Pacino?" Like, and we thought it was probably funnier than it actually was, but we rolled with it for an entire summer, just like Pacino, and to the point where on this particular day, I did it at the Burger King drive-thru because Pat thought it was hysterical.
The entire order did not break.
Yeah. And so we spent a summer talking like Pacino, but it was really only Pacino from this. It's not Pacino in Dog Day Afternoon. Sal. It's not that. It's this. This is what we did, because this to us is the penultimate
Pacino.
Yeah, it is. and listen, I think it goes to show just how talented he is. You think about all of the films that he's done. I agree with I think this is his best performance, because you're right. I mean, he goes just far enough where he's almost overacting, but because he's so brilliant, he pulls it back just before it goes over the edge. He teeters on the edge and pulls it back. So it prevents Big Boy from being a total, farce of a villain. He doesn't become total parody. It's just enough where he is just unhinged, but yet he's smart and dangerous enough where you believe he can pull all of this off.
It grounds the performance because he's able to hold on. He's just insane. And then we get what is easily my favorite scene in the movie. So Big Boy Caprice, he's going to take over the town. And he wants a cut of all the businesses. And because he has now offed lips, he's going to take over the Ritz. But he keeps Breathless on as the performer. So they have a rehearsal scene. And this is why it's my favorite thing, because he's directing the but he's singing along with her and then doing the dance moves. It is the funniest thing in the whole world to me, except for the physical abuse, because he smacks her a couple of times.
Yeah.
And that's where this film, again, it's like, oh, bright colors, but we're doing these horrible things. So you kind of on the first couple of viewings, like you don't even realize that he is like literally abusing her. But because the performance is so comical and he's, doing the more, I want more. It's just absolutely hilarious. But credit in this scene also to Madonna.
Oh, she's so good.
I mean, she's incredible as the femme fatale regardless, but this scene in particular, not only is she holding her own with Pacino, you can see Breathless's wheels start turning because she doesn't want to accept this as her fate. That because she was, it's sort of alluded to that she was romantically linked to Lips. I don't know if it was like a marriage on paper or if it was just she's his trophy, but they do have that brief conversation where she's like, I can't watch you eat anymore. And he's like, that never used to bother you. So you do get the impression that they were together. And now you got this guy berating her, slapping her. She doesn't want to accept this. Like she's okay with being part of the mob adjacent, maybe even being in herself, but she knows that this is no longer a good situation that she can just tolerate.
Yeah, and credit to her, as you said, because, and I think credit to Pacino too, because there are two instances in particular where he kind of lets her have it. I mean, physically slaps her twice. Once he hits her in the stomach, like
in the stomach. I mean,
and you could tell like it kind of knocked the wind out of her a little bit. But then he has a moment where he slaps her across the face, and I don't think they pulled much of a punch there, frankly. But it's this moment where you have, to your point, this really eccentric more, and he's got his hands in the air and he's like jiving on the table. Like, I actually think that like if you could have seen him on Broadway, he probably actually would have been like a really good song and dance guy. Like I can see him being like a Hugh Jackman, where it's like, you of all people, really?
Yeah.
But he gets frustrated and he goes from this like jovial, whimsical to like immediately flipping a switch, screaming. He slams the piano case down on 88 Keys' fingers. And she said to him, that was a really silly thing to do. He's the best piano player in town. And the line that he delivers is, he says it very calmly, and he goes, the next time I decide to turn his fingers into pretzels, I might just do the same thing to your face. And he slaps her. And Madonna, she literally sheds one tear.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yep.
Like, it's such a powerful moment because, to your point, you go from this whimsical, funny, look at what he's doing, he's ridiculous, to being abusive, to being so calm and quiet and calculated that you actually are afraid of him. And in that moment, she sheds one tear and she's done. And I think that's the moment where she becomes the blank. That's the moment that she becomes the blank.
That's the blank's origin story right there. It's a great shift for both of them because all we've seen from Caprice at this point is like we know that he's capable of horrible things, but all we've seen is the comedy, and then he flips that switch and it's like, oh, okay, we're not supposed to be laughing at you. We do have to fear you. And then for her, to your point, it's the wheels are in motion of, I have to get myself out of this. I don't think that she knows how she's going to do that quite yet. And I think that's the other thing that's peppered in pretty brilliantly is because in all of these scenes, she is in the background. She's listening. She's observing. She's gathering the information that she needs. And that's also why she doesn't testify right away, because not just that she's in fear for her life. She's not only afraid that they're going to put a hit on her. She's figuring out the best way to use the information that she has for her benefit. And, she says that in an early scene with Tracy too. She's not on anybody's side. She's on her own.
Yeah.
So just a brilliant character. Like, yes, she's the femme fatale, but she's also a very strong female.
Yeah. So let's talk about Tracy, because in a film called Dick Tracy, we've hardly talked about Dick Tracy. He at this point now is starting to pursue Big Boy's men because they find walnuts at the warehouse where they know that Lips has gone missing. He knows that that's Big Boy's signature snack. So with no evidence, it's like, well, we got these. That's good enough. Let's go. We'll get the rest of it out of them. It's a great moment for him because you see just how cavalier he is and how he's willing to stop at nothing. He doesn't care if what he's doing is above board or not. We know that he's right, but nobody else knows that he's right. And it's just him going off a hunch. And I think it just goes to show what a strong and what an intelligent character he is, and how, you know, he's not just Batman, right? He's not just Superman. He's not a superhero. He has no superpowers. So he's not just going to be somebody that fights back with, he's not going to fight back with superhuman strength. He's not going to fight back with a Batmobile or an airplane or a rocket or a ratchet. He's just going to outsmart you.
We don't have the vigilante element to it, but it's really smart for the conflict because he does want to, this is where it's like a really great checks and balance system. They want to promote him, so he does want the title, but he doesn't want to sit behind the desk. And I think once he lands Caprice and he gets his white whale, so to speak, he would maybe think about taking the desk job. But because he is, ambitious in his own career, and because he's the good guy, he does sort of ignore protocol. And to your point, we know he's right, but the DA is going to use that to keep him in check and keep him down. We also, the DA is working both sides. So that's where it creates a really good conflict too. But I like that we get a little man versus himself as a result. And you also get that through Tess, because I love how layered this relationship is. She's not necessarily pressuring him to take the desk job because she wants to settle down with him. She kind of just takes their relationship what it is for surface value. They both like living alone. They're both fiercely independent people. I don't know if it's that she doesn't want to rely on him because she's so independent, but I think a lot of it is that she doesn't want to force him to take the desk job to make him feel like she cornered him, but she also can't accept the relationship as it is with him constantly running off. But she's not holding him back either.
No, and I think that that's a smart choice to make her that way, because to the point you made, Breathless Mahoney is such a strong character on her own.
Mm-hmm.
You need, because now it's the tug of war between Tess and Breathless the whole time as to who's pursuing him and who is he going to ultimately land with.
And Love and Lust, yeah, for sure.
You needed somebody to match that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that you could have done that any other way.
And I love that scene where Breathless shows up at his house and she sees the picture of Tess and she says she's pretty. And Tracy says she's more than that.
Yeah.
Like, he does try to shut her down.
Yeah. Let's talk about the introduction to the kid. As Tracy now has gone after the walnuts and orders everybody, go round up Big Boy's men. We'll take care of it. Evidence or not, we'll find the evidence eventually. Now he's back on the date that you talked about. He shows up at the theater. Now they're at the diner. And as they're walking into the diner, the kid is running out because he stole somebody's, I think it was a watch or a wallet.
A pocket watch.
It was a pocket watch he stole. And Tracy chases him down to a shack that he's living in with a guy that looks straight out of a comic book. And when all he brought him was the pocket watch, the guy won't give him a piece of chicken, and he hits the kid. And Tracy comes in, and he saves the kid, and he takes him back to the diner to feed him. And all the while, the kid doesn't want to go to the orphanage. Tracy's telling him, you got to go to the orphanage. It's the law. But he's also in no rush to get him there.
Right.
So, again, you start fleshing this character out more where he wants everything to be above board, but sometimes he'll do it out of convenience and sometimes he won't.
He knows when to bend the rules. But I love the relationship that he develops with the kid. And I love that, you know, he's not constantly dumping him off on Tess either. Like, he does need Tess's help. And this is sort of, I think, what really puts the wheels in motion for their relationship, as far as they kind of start playing house because of the kid.
Yeah.
And they realize, like, okay, maybe we can do this. Maybe we can be a family. And again, I just so appreciate that that's not all being channeled and not put on Tess, and they didn't make her like the whiny girlfriend begging for a ring.
Yeah. So while all this is going on, you're starting to bring in Big Boy's men, right? And this is where we get introduced to Mumbles specifically. And they call him Mumbles because he just mumbles. That's the only thing he can say. And they've got him under the light, and Tracy comes in with the water. They're trying to sweat it out of him. And he's saying, you know, give me what I need. Where's Lips Manless? Where's Lips Manless? And all Mumbles is doing is going, and it's a moment I remembered as a kid, and they planted it so early because it pays off later on.
Yeah.
When the entire time, what you don't know, to your point, this movie's really good about doing everything in plain sight. You see everything that's going on. He's just given Big Boy up, but we don't know it yet. They also do a really good job early planting that Fletcher is on the payroll for Big Boy, and that it gives levity as to why every time Tracy tries to do something, Fletcher is there to shoot it down. And he's able to accomplish it every time because he knows Tracy is the type of person that thinks it's better to beg for forgiveness than to ask for permission.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he is always a step ahead, and why Tracy's never able to nab Big Boy for anything that he's been doing.
No, and in a way, it sort of subverts expectations because look at this. I'm gonna pull from Batman now. I think when we see this situation normally, like when it's Commissioner Gordon, as long as the streets are clean and he looks good and crime is low, you don't care. So normally the authority figure will sort of turn a blind eye with what Tracy is doing, because by any means necessary, as long as you're cleaning up the streets, I don't care as long as I look good. He wants Tracy under his thumb. So
Right.
It does create a really interesting dynamic.
And something else that they do, again, going back to having these really fun, lighthearted moments and then immediately splashing you with water, you have this moment where Tracy and Tess take the kid shopping to get him in clothes that aren't dirty, that don't smell. He doesn't want to wear them because he said, if you put me in a suit, it means I go to the boys' home. And Dick Tracy says to him, like, you gotta get new clothes. Don't let them pick the suit. You pick it. Pick whatever you want. And he lets the kid do it. And of course, the kid, he gets the big red hat and the red shirt and the red jacket and pants with the yellow polka dot tie.
He looks like Roger Rabbit.
Right. But if you look at it, he's wearing the same colors that Dick Tracy's wearing, but it's flipped
In
the other
reverse,
way.
yeah.
Which is brilliant. And you have this, when do we eat? When do we eat? When do we eat? Really fun, lighthearted, like family moment. And we're going to immediately go out of that into a drive-by shooting. Like, this movie just does such a good job of keeping you on the roller coaster, up and down the entire time.
No, and it's where the romance element really lends itself to the plot, because it's not just about getting Tracy and Tess together in the end. They struggle so much with talking about their feelings. He's walking her to the door, and that's when the drive-by happens. And the kid, you know, he saves him, essentially. Yeah. And it's the first moment where you see the role reversal of Tracy helping the kid out and trying to get him cleaned up and off the street, where they need each other in equal measure. They have each other's backs because the kid is always there for him to get him out of the scrapes. But circling back to Tess, this is where having this relationship does work so well, because you think it's just going to be that awkward moment where they're dancing around the conversation, and then they never get to finish it because of the drive-by.
Let's talk about when we get to the Club Ritz again. Big Boy has gotten control of the place. They're running a casino out of the club, and Dick Tracy and the rest of the police show up with a search warrant. And they're able to sound a buzzer in the club as the cops arrive. Let's talk about how they flip the club.
It's one of my favorite things. The walls are rotating around so that you can't see the gambling tables. All of the waitresses, they have gambling chips on one side of the tray. They flip it over and it's cigarettes. Everything just goes away immediately. And I love that it's really all a decoy. Tracy knows that he doesn't have enough right now to search for. And he really didn't do anything. He wasn't looking anywhere. It was just all to create a diversion so that they could get the bug into the club.
It's so brilliant.
And this is how he remains one step ahead of Caprice. We see through montage, which, by the way, they use the montages so brilliantly in this movie. There are 3 of them. One is the When Do We Eat? And then this one where we see the full song sooner or later play out. And Breathless is singing, but cut into it is Tracy capturing the bad guy. The bad guy goes away, and then there's either a headline or a news reporter, singing the praises of Dick Tracy. And normally for something like this, it feels a little bit contrived, just because you are using the music and not much is pushing the story forward, and it's just all of these visuals. But because of the nature of this being a comic, it feels like a comic strip the way that they're cutting it all together. It's really just so well done.
A lot of the times montages are not used properly. They're used in very corny ways. At times they feel lazy. This movie uses them to perfection.
Yeah.
They're absolutely brilliant, and it does keep the runtime moving, because I think that if you had slowed down to show every single instance where this worked, it would have just become boring. And to use it with that music was absolutely spectacular. Okay, so while this is happening, Tracy is getting all of the accolades. Big Boy is losing his mind, but Tracy continues to put Tess on the back burner. Like, you're thinking, hey, all right, we kind of have this under control now. This is the natural point in the film where maybe he starts to soften his stance and he lets his guard down a little bit, and maybe a little too much, and that's where your villain is going to strike. Not at all. He continues to back burner her the entire time, and when it gets to this point, he's doing it not because he's selfish, but it's because he's starting to take advantage of how good-natured she is.
Yes, but it also perfectly opens the door for the blank.
Yes.
Because when the blank frames Tracy for Fletcher's murder, I don't want to. Well, I mean, we've already revealed it. I was gonna say he, but it is really a she because it is Breathless Mahoney. But she makes sure that everyone is out of the way.
Yeah.
That would be able to help Tracy. The kid goes to the orphanage, which, by the way, I wasn't 100% sure if it was. They keep alluding to the welfare checks and that Tracy can't legally have him without adopting him. So I don't know if it was staged when they finally come for the kid, and that was the blank using one of the henchmen to go take him in. But then we do see him at the orphanage. So yeah. I think it was legit. But anyway, he's out of the way. Then you get, Tess is already upset with Tracy. She's left town, but she comes back because she has a greenhouse. So you kidnap her. So it's sort of the perfect crime because all of Tracy's loose ends are tied up. No one can help him. And now the blank is just going to focus on taking him down, which is fairly easy to do because he's so distraught over Tess. He's not on his A game, and that sort of swings the pendulum back in the favor of Caprice, because now the focus is on the blank, and Caprice can sort of get his hands back in everything and take over again. And now you get the third montage of Back in Business, which is the perfect parallel to Tracy cleaning everything up. Now it's just him threatening people and collecting money all over again. So it's that perfect balance. And again, a great example of a montage being used really, really well.
Yeah, and the great juxtaposition of Tracy's in jail and the kid is in the orphanage, which to him is jail. So
Yes.
You've got the two of them basically in the same situation. And buried in all of this, I can't overlook the best Pacino line in the entire movie. It is buried in there.
Yeah.
To me, it's the most quotable line in the movie, where he's, and I can't do the voice again because I'm going to lose my voice if I do it in the Pacino, but when he yells, "I wanted generals, and what have I got? Foot soldiers." And he starts pounding on the table. "I want Dick Tracy dead." And he flips it and the lobsters go all over the place. It's just sheer perfection.
It really is. My favorite moment is still the dance rehearsal. Foot Soldiers is probably my third favorite. My second favorite is that once Caprice realizes that he has been framed for Tess's kidnapping, he doesn't know what to do with himself. He keeps flip-flopping. Like, immediately he knows how bad it is.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is a federal offense. And he realizes that the blank has gotten away with the perfect crime because Tracy has now seen him with Tess. So go figure. And this is the brilliance of Mahoney. She's framing him for the one crime he didn't actually do.
Yeah.
So he's so flustered that she got him on this of all things. He keeps flip-flopping around. Maybe I can use this to my advantage to get out of this. Maybe I should just come clean to Tracy. And then he keeps pleading with Tess, "I didn't actually do this. This isn't me." But then he starts threatening her because from moment to moment, he doesn't know what he's going to do with her. It's incredible just to see him with his back against the ropes like this.
Yeah.
And he's so funny, but he's also running scared now.
Yeah.
Just the performance. I can't.
He's
I can't.
completely hysterical the entire time. Yeah, and now we're at the point of the movie. We are at the end of the movie. And I will say, as good as the pacing is, the end of the movie does come kind of fast.
Yeah, lots and lots of cutting back and forth because you do have all of your mains in different spots.
Right. But I think they're also able to accomplish that because the thing that it does successfully is that you're watching the blank's plan pay off in real time. Everything is firing off at the exact right moment. So it's very easy for them to get to this scene in the drawbridge with the gears.
Speaking of firing off, though, before that, they have the big shootout, which is so well done, even though it feels like something that you would see at MGM. Like, it feels like the Indiana Jones stunt show with like a flipping car and like, it's coming, but it still looks great. Or like, I'm even thinking back to Catastrophe Canyon. It is those controlled explosions on a set. And because they do it all practical, like looking at it now, you can kind of see all of those trigger points before they're about to happen, but like it just still looks great because it lends itself to the comic strip of it all. But yes, then we get to the drawbridge. We're running through, I think it's the tunnels by Griffith Observatory, because most of this was shot on either the Universal lot or Warner Brothers. But that tunnel in particular, it's the Roger Rabbit one. It is the Back to the Future one. It's a Hollywood staple. So I love that it's in here, especially because, with Roger Rabbit in particular, because we're sort of in that same era and it's got like a similar feel. It just feels like such a touch point with these movies.
And it does lead to a great finale where Tracy comes in, Caprice has Tess tied to the gears, and he's doing it in a way where it's like, yeah, I know this is going to take forever to kill her, but it's because I'm going to use all of this time to negotiate with you that we could do this together. And he's trying to push Tracy. He's pushing the one raw nerve that he has, which has been Tess the entire time. Now the blank shows up, and the blank is like, well, or we just kill Big Boy, you get your way, I get my way, and we'll run the town together. And while Tracy is back and forth, he's without a weapon at this point, he's trying to figure out exactly who it is that he's going to side with in all of this. It's the one moment where Breathless literally lets her guard down because she can't shoot Tracy. She can't pull the trigger. We've seen her pull the trigger elsewhere, but she can't pull it on him. And that's where she gets shot by Big Boy. We obviously don't know it's her yet, but it's the one moment where she has the weakness, and it is ultimately a fatal mistake.
It is. I mean, it is the defining moment of a femme fatale where she's, taken down by the man because her guard is down.
And similar to how in Batman, he doesn't necessarily kill the Joker with a weapon. The Joker falls to his death sort of by happenstance because he could have saved him, but he didn't let him go. It's very much a similar thing here when Big Boy falls to his death.
I do think that there is sort of a beat, though, where Tracy is contemplating not saving Big Boy because, like I said, that's been his white whale the whole time. He wants him out. I think because, and he did have that beat in the police car earlier where he's like, is the enemy of the enemy my friend? Is the enemy of my enemy my enemy? I think even before he knew it was Breathless, who I don't believe he actually would have worked with, but I think he is contemplating working with the blank. Because if they had the same interest in taking out Caprice, maybe he figures, oh, this isn't such a bad guy, and if I keep him in my good graces, that will only help me out. It could be that he's contemplating that the blank could be his man on the street, so to speak, if he is going to be behind a desk, which I think he's made up his mind to do at this point because of Tess. Speaking of Tess, we do have the moment where they are reunited and she's standing, out on the roof or the bridge, but you've got the cityscape behind her, you've got the wind blowing in her hair. It feels very much Singing in the Rain. And for all intents and purposes, it should feel so cheesy and corny and out of place. But because this movie is able to emulate that classic Hollywood style so well and incorporate it into the film, it works so well here. And it doesn't feel cheesy. It doesn't feel contrived. It just feels very fitting. And then very fitting of their relationship. The proposal is very awkward, but it works. And he ends up just tossing her the ring box. It's very cute.
Yeah, and then he goes off to fight crime again. So at the end of the day, nothing's going to change. We're just going to have this understanding of each other.
But that's the brilliance of it. And that's what I respect so much about the way this relationship is written. She didn't force him to take the desk job. She's got a great character arc because she realizes that she can accept all parts of him, including the job. She's not going to, that's the thing. He's not going to be the same person behind the desk. So she realizes she can't force him to do that for the sake of being with her. And she realizes that she can accept the job and the relationship as it is and not try to change him.
Okay. I think now is a time to discuss the cast, at least go into detail of the top 5 members of the cast, our 5 leads, but we do need to run off the names. This is insane how many people are in this movie.
Because that's the thing. They're hidden behind makeup. So until you watch the end credits, or if you saw their name in the beginning, you're not going to realize they're there. And then some that have even gone on to become huge names since a little role in this.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and just fire off a bunch of them, at least the super noteworthy ones, right? Seymour Castle plays Sam Catcham. Charles Durning plays Chief Brandon. Dick Van Dyke is District Attorney Fletcher. Frank Campanella is Judge Harper. Kathy Bates is Mrs. Green, the stenographer. Dustin Hoffman is Mumbles. William Forsythe is Flat Top. James Tolkien is Numbers. Mandy Patkinen is 88 Keys. Paul Sorvino is Lips Manless. James Caan is Spud Spaldoni. Catherine O'Hara is Texie Garcia.
Yes, and Texie Garcia, I thought that might have been her when she comes to take the kid to the orphanage. That's why I wasn't sure if it was somebody that looked like her or if the character was hired out to do it.
Yeah, but super, super stacked cast here.
Yeah, just incredible. But let's talk about the mains.
Yeah. Starting with Warren Beatty, who plays Dick Tracy. A lot of people, and Beatty himself in the years that followed, have become critical of himself, not because his performance was bad, but because he was in his mid-50s when he made this, and Tess is in her maybe early to mid-30s. So there's a bit of an age gap. They thought maybe he had been a little too old for the role. However, at the time of this recording, I believe Warren Beatty is 88 years old, and he looks like he's in his 60s. I would have never guessed that he was in his 50s when he made this movie. And frankly, I think he knocked the role out of the park.
I completely agree. I didn't realize he was in his 50s either because, number one, he doesn't look... The only tell, I think, that he was that age is because of his experience and the directorial experience that he would get a project like this. But otherwise, as far as how he looks, no, you really don't even notice the age gap.
If nobody questions Pepper and Tony, nobody should be really questioning Dick Tracy and Tess.
He's fantastic though. He's so great as far as keeping the cards close to the vest with this character. He's very stoic, but you do know exactly where he's at all times. I just love, and he looks incredible in the costume, which is so simple, but it still works. And I love, we didn't mention this, in the proposal, he's not wearing the coat and hat. It's just him. Like, there's no pretense, there's no facade anymore. I like that he puts it on after. It was very smart. It was a very nice touch. But incredible performance. And it's unreal that he was doing double duty because this is so well directed from top to bottom. The shot composition, the overall cinematography of the film, and the performances that he got out of everyone. Although I'm not sure that he even gave Pacino a note and just let her rip.
Yeah, before we get to Pacino, let's talk about Tess, played by Glenn Headley. We talked about her previously in Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, and I had said then, I believe I said then, that I knew her more from this, obviously, and that this was her better performance. And if I said it, sorry to repeat myself, and if I thought it and didn't say it, guess what? This is her better performance. I love the chemistry that she has with literally every actor in this movie. Her chemistry with Warren Beatty's unbelievable. Her chemistry with Al Pacino, with Madonna, with Charlie Karsmo. Like, you buy into her relationship with everybody. It's absolutely flawless.
She's just such an incredible character. Like, I said it before, I appreciate that there is no tropes about her at all. Like, not just that she's not the whining girlfriend trying to pressure him for a ring. they also don't really make her very maternal. Like, she's got a soft spot for the kid, but she's not the driving force she's not the driving force trying to keep him out of the orphanage. She just does what Tracy asks of her, and she helps the kid. But I think that's just sort of out of the goodness of her heart, and not and because she recognizes the need for survival, and not because she sees him as a tool that's going to get Tracy to settle down. She kind of is just along for the ride when it comes for the kids. So that really works by not playing that maternal card with her.
Al Pacino. But what else do you say about Al Pacino?
I mean, all due respect to The Godfather, but like, this is it. It is the best performance. It's incredible. This should be studied.
He did get nominated for Best Supporting Actor. He did not win the Oscar for this role. He was nominated. It is his best role. He was perfect casting. And I think that the fact that I can't sit here and say he stole the show says a lot about everybody else.
I want to say that he stole it. And he is hands down my favorite character in this. But because this cast is so stacked and because everybody bought their A game, it wasn't a clear runaway with him.
Yeah. Madonna as Breathless Mahoney.
So impressive. I mean, getting Madonna for this, because she's like at Vogue by this point. She is like peak of her music career. This would be like getting Sabrina Carpenter in a Marvel film now. But what is so impressive to me about Madonna, and I mean, I like her. I've enjoyed her music over the years. I do think that she's a pretty talented actress. I love her in A League of Their Own. But she was cast as the bombshell in this, right? But she is so good. She carries so much weight. She's not just a pretty face in this. Like, they gave this character so much depth, not just because of the reveal at the end that she's been masterminding this whole thing. It's the subtleties in her performance that I wasn't expecting from her that she just pulls off so well. And she, I do think that on par with the rest of the cast, she was able to really take what was on paper and elevate it.
Yeah. Charlie Korsmo plays the kid. He was handpicked by Warren Beatty for this role, and for good reason. I mean, this actor, he was in so many movies that I loved as a kid, and then like even as an adolescent, because he was in Hook, he was in What About Bob, he was in this. Then later he goes on to do Can't Hardly Wait, which is such a departure from the rest of the kind of characters that he played. But he was always so good at never being that child quip machine.
Yes.
But he also didn't oversell it either. You know, it's so easy to oversell it. It happens a lot in Newsies, and I understand that that's a musical, so it's a different genre of film.
Yep.
But he doesn't ever like lean into that. He has lines like, "Yeah, go suck an egg." Like, he's got those lines.
One a week.
But he never. But it's still nuanced at the same time.
You just hit it right on the head with Newsies, because what I was going to say is that I feel like a less talented child actor, it would almost feel Dickensian being out on the street like that, because they're like theater kids by and large. That's how they start their training, and then they get into film. So it would have felt so over the top. But yeah, there's a restraint here, and he's just so good and really endearing. Like, to your point, if this was a quip machine and the kid is always jumping on the back of cars to go watch Tracy and then stepping up at the last minute when Tracy's in a jam to help him, you would think that there would have been a moment in this where he's like, "Gee, kid, hit the road. You can't be here.
Yep.
It's too dangerous. Da 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 da." And then, like, in the 11th hour, shows up to save him and prove him wrong. That never happened.
They never have that falling out.
It's a copacetic relationship, and I absolutely love that. And like, can you imagine he does this, and then Hook comes out in 91? So you have to imagine they shot those back to back. Like a year in the life, man.
Yeah.
What a ride for this kid.
Final thoughts. I'm going to go first because I am going to be quick. This movie is sheer perfection. It has a ton of rewatchability. It should be on Disney Plus or Hulu. I think it's ridiculous that it isn't, but it's worth paying for because right now it's on Amazon and everything else where you can pay to watch it. Pay to watch it. Go to the library and see if you can get it if you still own a DVD player or a Blu-ray player. Just watch the movie, and if you haven't watched it in a while, watch it again because it holds up so incredibly well, and I wish that they would have given it the sequel treatment because they were going to. They thought this could be the detective version of Indiana Jones. It's what they had envisioned for it, but unfortunately, because they pumped way too much money into marketing something that was going to be marketed because they went crazy with toys for kids and McDonald's and all that, this movie would have survived on its own with a little less marketing. They spent too much. It killed the movie. It killed the franchise. This, to me, could have had 3 films plus prequels. It's so unfortunate that this, and then a couple of years later, The Rocketeer, they both fell victim to the same thing because they're both just so good.
Sheer perfection was the exact phrase that I was going to use. I mean, I wish that I had seen this growing up. I wish that I had grown up on it because I would have been rewatching it all of the time and it would be easily in my top 5 favorite movies. And that doesn't mean that it's not going to be. Like, this is one that I'm going to put into regular rotation. It checks every box as far as like my personal taste in movies, but bias aside, it is just so freaking well done, top to bottom, inside out. You know, at the risk of repeating myself again, it's the cinematography, it's the set design, and even if those were just, you know, average and not hyper stylized, the performances would have put this movie over the top regardless. But because you have everything firing on all cylinders, yes, it is absolute perfection.
We want to know what you have to say about Dick Tracy. You can let us know on all forms of social media at Monoreel Radio, or you can send us an email, monoreelradio@gmail.com. News of the week is coming up, but first, a quick break.
One of the concepts that has always drawn me to Disney is the idea that storytelling goes hand in hand with travel. So besides my admiration for Walt as a film producer, studio head, and overall visionary, I continue to draw inspiration from him in another area, as a vacation planner. I've been working as an independent travel advisor since 2018, helping couples, families, and even solo travelers plan their dream vacations. But as long as I've been doing this, I've also had clients experience some not-so-perfect vacations, where I've had to help pivot around some unforeseen circumstances like hurricanes and medical emergencies. So even if you're an experienced traveler, booking your trip with me means having someone in your corner to course correct so you don't have to worry if something goes awry. Whether it's a theme park, hotel, or a cruise, I've got you covered for every type of destination, the planned and the unplanned. So visit monoreelradio.com/travel and I'll be in touch to get started.
2 major trailer drops this week, and I'm not going to lie to you, and this should surprise nobody who has listened to Monoreel Radio for a long time. I am not really excited about either one of these.
I'm not even cautiously optimistic for either of them right now. We are, of course, talking about the trailer for the live-action Moana and Toy Story, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5. Let's get into Moana first, because this was more of a teaser, I dare say. We see pretty much shot for shot what the animation is. Which I guess I can appreciate, because the big complaint over these live action quote unquote remakes is that they've become retellings and not remakes anymore. And they're changing the source material. So I appreciate that they're seemingly sticking to what we know. But being that this is just a teaser trailer and we're not even like getting into the scene work just yet, why don't we lean into the setting a little bit more so that we can see Hawaii and see that they bothered to do this live action, Because all we pretty much see is the CGI water and CGI characters. So aside from the fact, you know, and this is what we've come to expect, being that they've already done Jungle Book and they've already done Lion King, and those are full CGI, but we're calling them live action. You know, I'm not going to say I'm going to give it a pass, but like, it just is what it is. But like, show me Hawaii, for crying out loud.
Yeah, it's a live action remake with virtually no live action in it. You get one shot of Moana singing the end of How Far I'll Go, where she says, I am Moana, and that's where the trailer ends. That is the only bit of live action in the trailer for the live action remake of Moana, which is coming out on July 10th of 2026.
She looks great, though.
Oh, yeah. She looks the part, of course. I mean, I think they nailed the costume. So, all right.
Yeah, that looks
great.
It looked like really textured. So, like, for that much, I'm excited to see, and I'm hoping that they really lean into that and the culture a lot more. But like, that's the perfect place to showcase it, is in the teaser, because that is the live action part of it. Anyway, I digress. On to the next.
On to the next, and this one is coming out on June 19th of 2026. Before I get into the trailer, this is something that you and I have talked about almost ad nauseum. When people wonder why Disney has been having some difficulties at the box office recently, and we've talked about it on the show, how expensive it is for a family of 4 to go to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And how, I mean, a family of 4 goes to the movies, you're a minimum of $40 just on tickets. Now, if you want to get popcorn, soda, and candy, because now a popcorn is $10 and a soda is $8 and a bag of candy is $5, I mean, you're anywhere between $75 to $100 to go see one movie.
Easily.
That you can buy on Blu-ray for $19 when it comes out, or watch on Disney Plus when it hits the streamer. So this is how people are choosing to spend their entertainment money. And we have said that Disney, at times, stacks their release slate too much. And because the cost of going to the movies has become a lot for families, they are becoming picky and choosy. So you've got Moana coming out on July 10th. You've got Toy Story 5 coming out on June 19th. I mean, it's a 3.5 week difference.
Well, I feel like this year in particular, 2025, felt so heavy because what we're seeing is fallout from the writer's strike. So many films got pushed into this year, and Disney had like 10 major theatrical releases this year. So it was seemingly one a month. Here, this goes back to what we talked about at the top of the show, with you do have your big blockbuster dates that you're aiming for, and it usually aligns with when the kids are out of school. So in this case, we've got the end of school, at least in the Northeast, covered with the June release. And then, well, this isn't really your 4th of July release, though.
Right, because it's coming out a week after.
But to your point, yeah, I would have maybe spaced it Memorial Day and 4th of July.
Well, that tells me that they've got something else coming out on Memorial Day. So you're going to have...
Is that Doomsday in May? I think May is Doomsday.
Is it that, or is it Grogu and Mando? I don't know. We'll have to look into it later. But the point is... But this goes to what I'm talking about, right? Like, you're going to do a big release 3 weeks before Toy Story 5. Mm-hmm. Then you're going to release Toy Story 5. And then 3 weeks after, you're going to do another release.
And to that point, these are 2 family films. If you want to pepper them in, like you said with Mando, alternate with like a Mando, then a family movie, then a Marvel, then a family movie.
Right.
But yeah, to expect people to drop, now you're talking about $200 to go to the movies for 2 months in a row. That's a big ask, especially when the trailers aren't really hooking you. Here's the thing. It's Toy Story, right? It's beloved. We're going to go, even though we really don't love the 4th one. Here's my gripe. And basically, it is my gripe about the fourth one. We spent so much time giving Woody this character arc of having to give up and let go of Andy after spending 3 movies of Andy, and we are his toys and that is our function, to then go to Bonnie, to then decide, you know what? The kids aren't really for me. I'm going to go live a bohemian lifestyle with Bo Peep. And now in the trailer, Buzz and Woody are back together. And the quote unquote villain of this story is that we're going to be competing with the attention for the electronic toys because Bonnie gets an iPad. Now, could that be, maybe I'm being a little hasty to judge it here. Could that be like the end of the movie? That could be the tag on the end of the movie. And we could spend this entire movie with Woody's journey back to Bonnie. But that's just, it's a bold move after what you did in the fourth one to start here with Woody, or at least seemingly start here with Woody back.
I mean, and they're telling us that this is supposed to be Jesse's film. So one of 2 things is going to happen. We're either going to forget that silly fourth movie ever happened, which I'm more than happy to do, by the way. Or it's going to be something like Woody and Bo are going to be like, we got to get back to Bonnie. Go in the Lost and Found. And Bonnie and her family will have made it like halfway home and be like, we lost Woody. We got to go back. We left him at the fair. We left him at the toy store. And then it'd be like, oh, here he is in the Lost and Found. They're going to figure out a way, and it's probably going to be really lazy, to put him back there. Or they're just going to pretend like it never happened. In any case, I don't think either scenario is very good.
I agree. Honestly, what the Mighty Ducks did with rewriting the history of the films for the TV show, that was unforgivable. But this, I will happily turn my head the other way if we can just forget about Toy Story 4.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and I think a lot of others would as well. Let's talk about something that we are excited about. And that is the Festival of the Holidays at Epcot, because the foodie guide has been released.
Yes, this is the final installment of holiday foodie guides at Disney. I feel like we've been getting one a week. My wallet feels it. My waistline feels it. We got a lot of work to do this next month.
Yeah, so it's like out with Food and Wine Festival and in with Food and Wine Festival again. You said it perfectly when we saw... At first it was like, oh wow, there's a lot of new this year. That's great. New things to try. And then the list kept going, and the list kept going, and the list kept going. And you were the one that said, wait a second.
Yeah, I feel like this is Food and Wine 2.0, and not in a bad way, though. I just feel like for Festival of the Holidays in past years, they've just highlighted like 1 or 2 traditional dishes. It's been like an entree, a dessert, and a drink. Or like maybe a beer and either a cocoa or an eggnog, or a beer and some kind of cocktail at each booth. Now I feel like you're getting upwards of 4 offerings per booth. And like, I'm not complaining.
Oh, no, it looks great.
They came out swinging with the variety this year. The cookie stroll is insane. They look absolutely incredible. They really punched up the flavors with that this year. So I'm super excited for it. We just have to make sure we allow ourselves some time to really sample the food, because this time of year gets very busy for us.
Yeah.
Last year, we did a great job of sampling food because we went during the day, and we unfortunately had to miss the candlelight processional with our holiday travel schedule. This year, we're aiming for the Fonz candlelight processional. So we just have to figure out where we get the snacking in.
And we're going to have to do another thing that I never do, and that's get the small beer. I never get the small beer. I'm not a child. I don't need a sippy straw for my beer. But there are so many that I want to try, and, I have to navigate a vehicle home. So I can't. So if I want to try as many as I want to actually try, I'm going to have to do the smaller offerings, which is so unlike me. But this might be the year to do it because a lot of them just sound really good. And they're leaning into like a lot of different sort of holiday flavors. I've seen eggnog ales, gingerbread ales, oatmeal cookie stouts.
Yeah, there's a white chocolate stout, which sounds like an oxymoron, but I'm so down to try it.
Yeah, like it is going to be, as far as I can tell, the most impressive menu that we've had since at least we've moved down here for Festival of the Holidays. And hopefully, if it's something that you've been wanting to do, you will be at Walt Disney World sometime between November 28th and December 30th when the International Festival of the Holidays is running. Thank you so much for joining us this and every week on Monoreel Radio. Monoreel Radio will always be free, but there are many ways that you can support the show. Please give us a rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Join the conversation on social media at Monoreel Radio on all major platforms. Share your favorite episodes with family and friends who may enjoy them. And of course, book your next trip with Jackie. Links to everything can be found at monoreelradio.com. We all get one story. Make yours a magical one.
On behalf of Monoreel Radio, we'd like to thank you for joining us. We'll see you at the movies, the stuff dreams are made of.